How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Conti and Nick. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The first time they go offense, they take Jordan Love? They take Jordan Love!
Listen, Matisse Thybulle will lock up CP3.
Oh my god.
Chris Paul.
Oh my god.
Chris Paul, baby. Right, Will?
Nope, I totally disagree. Look. Welcome back to Conti and Nick. I'm Will Nicholson. As always, I have with me Gino Conti. And we're on, number 59 we're doing?
59.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wine, dine, and 59.
Wine, dine, and 59. The episodes just keep getting bigger, Conti.
They do.
They do.
I know, as every episode happens, just a number tends to increce.
I know. It's
Wow.
crazy how that works.
I know. Nah, the more you know.
The more you
Da,
the
na,
more you
na,
know.
na.
But we're back here today. I'm going to do the whole spiel as always. Instagram, Twitter, social
You know
media.
the
at
drill.
Conti and
You
Nick.
know the
You
drill.
know the drill. You know
You
how
know
it
the
works.
drill.
John
Okay.
Bro and all. You guys get it.
We got a bit of a scenario here, Will, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is a sports podcast.
Yes.
But if I may be so bold, did you hear that BMW is going to start charging the vehicle operators to use the heated seats?
I did not see that.
On a subscription service of $18 per month. BMW, the car company, is going to make that a subscription service where you have to pay, or a special $180 per year or $18 a month to use the heated seats.
I did not see that. No, that is ridiculous. What? Is that true? I feel
It
like
is
you're messing with
100.
me.
No, I do not spread any vulgarity,
False narratives.
false narratives on this podcast.
Yep.
You know, so that is. Tell me that we want to talk about stuff that grinds my gears. I just had to get that off my chest, and
That one Family Guy. You know what grinds my gears?
Instead of in hopes that since we're reaching a little bit of a larger audience now that we'll be on
Yes.
MCM channel, in hopes that BMW goes on MCM channels
And explains themselves.
Yes, and explains themselves. Whoever the CEO is, I want you here next to me or next to Will next
We'll
week.
pull up a third mic. You
want
can
you-
use this camera right here. We'll put you right there.
I want
That'd
you
be
to
great.
explain yourselves in front of national, local television
National, local.
for the
television.
travesty that is making people pay for features that are in the vehicle already.
No, that is. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Also, before we get into basketball, my last name is spelt wrong on this, so there's an H in there.
Nicholson.
Will Nicholson. No, but yeah. I mean, shout out to Coach Famella. I played 4 years of rugby for him. And he spelled my last name wrong on the senior gift jersey that
You may have,
he gave me.
Will,
so.
you may have your last name spelled wrong, but you know, some people have to pay for heated seats.
That's true. That's a good point. It's really a first world problem.
Yeah, listen,
The jersey I haven't worn since I was 18 years old.
I
so.
know, but just if you're in a position where you're able to pay for heated seats, then and you're happy about it, then you know what?
Yeah.
You've clearly made it far more than a lot of
You're a
people
better
have.
man than Conti.
And Nick.
Exactly.
I'm just joking, but
We got some hoops to talk about.
I know. So some hoops and bounds for paying customers, paying for heated. I'm just joking, but within the last couple of days, there have been some NBA trade rumors, and it's kind of funny how Danny Ainge gets hired to be an advisor of basketball operations for Utah. Obviously, you see the Rudy Gobert trade happening; they got a haul for him, and you know what? His teammate and not so dear friend Donavan Mitchell also may be on the move as well. They're just rumors, but the Jazz have said that they are willing to do it if that price is right and if need be. Personally, I think it is a mistake. I don't believe that it should happen. I don't think Utah is in need of a complete blow up. But Will, let's hear your reaction first.
No, I was on the same boat as you. I remember we talked about a couple of episodes ago, like, yeah, Utah can just build through the draft here. And, like we said, Donovan Mitchell is going to have to wait. But we like teams that are homegrown. We both made that clear, and they succeed better. It's just historically in the NBA, besides, the super team Warriors, that's pretty much how it
And the
works.
Heat.
Yeah, sure. A few exceptions where it's, okay, superstar, like, out-of-this-world talent goes to this team. But, no, so the rumors, started to spread. And then Donovan Mitchell came out and said he's not requesting a trade, so he would stay here. And then a couple of days ago, we kind of get the Woj bomb that he's not requesting a trade, but the Jazz are open to listening to offers, which it's strange a little bit because is Donovan asking for a trade or does Utah know he's going to leave eventually in free agency? Because I don't believe he got an extension yet, right?
I don't
Off his
think
rookie
so.
contract?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He might have, but I honestly don't remember.
I don't remember, and I don't think so. So we can get fact checked on that. But it's confusing, right? It's a little weird to see, and I'm not going to get into the Brian Windthorst. And why is that? I'm not going to do that.
Let me tell you though, he had everybody at that panel on the edge of their seats.
He's so dumb.
They were like leaning forward, like wide-eyed, like, "Oh my God, what's he about to say?"
I know.
Because say what you want about Windy, but that man knows his stuff, man.
He does.
That guy got the information. You know, Woj gives the Woj bombs, but
Yeah.
Brian Windhorst, man,
He's got the inside information.
of course he does. He has,
Yeah.
and, you know, I don't know. He has an
But
exquisite.
not to give my impression of
plethora.
him, but like there is something brewing in Utah. It feels like where are they going for a rebuild? You know, they make this trade, they get a whole bunch of assets, and it doesn't look like they're making a move to pair someone with Donovan Mitchell. So it looks like very much they're just blowing the whole thing up. Let's start from scratch. It's weird. I don't necessarily like it, but if you can get the right price for Donovan Mitchell, I mean, I guess it's worth starting over. But how do you feel about this whole situation of maybe them blowing it up?
I'll be honest with you, I completely and utterly disagree with it. Like I said at the beginning, you and I had this discussion last week, I believe it was, where we said the Utah Jazz can either do one of two things. They can what?
Huh?
What? You're smirking.
No,
You're smirking.
I was
What?
just thinking of. I'm sorry.
And why is
That's all I thought about. I'm
the
sorry. Keep
Utah
going.
Jazz have a bevy of options to choose from here? You know, they have a plethora of directions
No.
they can go.
Nope, I'm stopping that there.
Why?
No, I'm kidding. Keep going.
Okay, so to be serious for a minute, not really, but
Let me say this.
in Syria, Chuck, you do your research? Not really.
really.
But anyway, so I definitely think that what they were able to get for Rudy Gobert, in my opinion, was unprecedented. You know, listen, he's an all-time great defender. You and I had some disagreements on it, but there's no way that you can win 3 Defensive Player of the Years and not be labeled as at least amongst the elite of the elite for NBA defenders.
Well, Gino, here is my list for I'm kidding.
Did you really like it?
I didn't.
You told me you would. You lied to me.
I know.
He lied. Everyone, put the camera on him right now. This is about time where the camera should be right on him. He lied. Liar, liar, plants for hire. It's pants on fire, Patrick.
No, but you know,
Sorry,
it's all
go
good. To get back to Utah, it is it is confusing, and I agree. Rudy Gobert is a great defender. In the playoffs, it's a little bit different. I don't think he works well in a half court set defensively.
Yeah,
but
no.
When you put him in
I'm not arguing that he hasn't been exposed.
okay.
I'm not.
He's a great player. I'm just
I'm not saying that
they gave up way too much for Rudy Gobert.
I completely agree. I'm not saying that he doesn't have his faults.
Okay.
Believe me, I'm not trying to tell you he's perfect. But again, like, there's no way you can win that many awards and not be labeled amongst the elite of the elite. But anyways, so back to kind of Donovan Mitchell. So what they will get for Donovan Mitchell is going to be. Listen, think about it this way. Everyone looks at Rudy Gobert and what they got for him. Donovan Mitchell, this is going to sound weird at first, but stay with me, is worse than Kevin Durant. Imagine what you'll be able to get for Donovan Mitchell. You know, if Rudy Gobert goes for 4 firsts, Malik Beasley, the first-round pick, and Patrick Beverley, then what will you be able to get for Donovan Mitchell? And then what will you be able to get for Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
Because we all know how it's not a huge amount, but KD is a little sizably better than Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell's a special player, man.
True.
In my opinion, like, it's between, if you want, do you count Luka as a point guard?
Yeah.
Okay, so in my opinion, it's between Book and D. Mitch for the best shooting guard in the league. And
Well, Jimmy Butler.
really?
Or do you count him as more of a 3?
I count him as more of a 3.
Okay.
To be honest with you, but
Sure.
I think it really and truly, like, you can really argue, and I wouldn't mind if you said Booker. I wouldn't mind if you said D. Mitch as to who the best shooting guard is in the league. So if you get what's the premium you'll get for him? You know, what is the premium?
True.
So
And the market's super high right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Like you said, I didn't even think about it like that, where, Rudy Gobert just went for this much. It's, how much is Donovan Mitchell going to go for? And then how much is Kevin Durant going to go for?
Yeah.
Because, look, there's levels to this, right? So it's like Kevin Durant, but, Donovan Mitchell is not that far. He's, like you said, the best shooting guard in the league.
Well, if Kevin Durant's a 5-star player, I think Donovan Mitchell is like a 4.5-star player.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's where, and then Rudy Gobert, I'd say, is about a 3 and 3/4,
4,
3 and
sure.
3/4 or 4
Yeah,
star
yeah.
player. But anyways, so I'm a little perplexed and I'm a little confused because, in my opinion, and I'll use the same argument I did with Brooklyn. what are you going to get back for Donavan Mitchell that's better than Donavan Mitchell?
Yeah.
In my opinion, like, I haven't really put that much thought into who exactly they could trade for, but you get all those assets. In my opinion, you need to package that, and you need to get somebody big, like a big all-star. I'm not saying like a big man, maybe a big man, but like a big asset, like an all-star player. And you and I both sat here last week, and we both agreed that if we asked Donovan Mitchell to wait for a rebuild through the draft and to get homegrown talent, that's asking a little bit too much out of him. You know, that's kind of asking him to, I wouldn't say waste away his prime per se, but really take years out of his prime years in his career where he could be playing winning basketball.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, in my opinion, if you can get what you can get for Rudy Gobert, then you do that every day of the week and you do it twice on Sundays. But it almost makes me question why they did it if they're going to make Donovan Mitchell wait and they build through the draft.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. It's weird. I said, it's weird what's going on. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell gets traded. Honestly, I think this is just Danny kind of testing the market to see. I don't think Donovan Mitchell gets traded. You know, like you said, he's one of the best shooting guards in the league. He's a young talent. And right now they are wasting away some of his prime years right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, I agree with you completely. Why would you hit the reset button? And I say this all the time. People always say, like, oh, you know, we need to rebuild, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's so hard to have a good team in the modern NBA. It's so hard. Everything has to go right. Your player needs to like the situation. So to just hit the reset button it's weird. Donovan very much liked Utah, it seemed. He liked the culture that they had. He really liked Quinn Snyder when he was the coach there. He was a big fan of him. And now he's no longer there, which was also just weird. So I'm a little confused on what's going on in Utah as a whole, and I don't agree with them hitting the reset button because it's so hard to have a good team in the NBA. The Celtics just made the finals for the first time since 2008. Think about the teams we've had before then, or 2010, sorry. Think about the teams that we had before then. It was, you know, these Evan Turner teams and, you know, these teams that just weren't good.
IT.
Yeah, IT.
Led by
IT
Avery Bradley, Marcus Morris, Jay Crowder, Amir Johnson.
You have to go through
Tyler Zeller.
Think about the reset that we had to do to be competitive again. And I'm not counting those Isaiah Thomas teams because they weren't going to win a championship. It was just the reality of it. So, all right, you're the Celtics in like 2013, something like that. You're like, okay, hit the reset button, right? We reset everything. And then you get all these Nets pick, yeah. But we haven't really had a shot to win a championship since this year. Think of 2013 to 2022.
I'd argue the bubble.
Okay, sure.
The bubble when we made it to the conference finals.
I'll give you 2020, sure. But think about that. That's a 7-year period just from hitting the reset button with 2 Hall of Famers. And a lot of those teams weren't that good. And I'll argue the bubble. I don't think it was that year. I think no matter what, either team was going to lose to the Lakers that year. They wanted LeBron to win. It was a whole thing. Everyone wanted LeBron to win. But, you know, this is just the thing where you hit the reset button where, you know, it's a long process. It's not like the NFL. In the NFL, I feel like it's very easy to be competitive for a long period of time. I feel like it's harder for players to get out of situations in the NFL. So, like, the Patriots...
It's becoming increasingly more easy.
It is becoming more easy, but it's still very, you know, relevant in that it's harder for players to get out of contracts in the NFL. So, like, you look at the Patriots, dominant for a decade, have one bad year, we get our new quarterback, we get our system back together, you know, playoff appearance. We didn't do much with it, but still, it's easier. In the NBA...
With a rookie.
Yeah, exactly. In the NBA, think about how hard it's been for, like, the Pistons to be competitive since their championship year. It's a hard thing to do, so to kind of wrap this all back in, I don't know what Utah's doing. I think it's bad for you to just hit the eject button.
Yeah, and you know, so a lot of people, because it is Danny Ainge, are kind of drawing comparisons to 2013 when they got rid of Pierce, Garnett, all, you know, and I think about it, and you kind of have to say to yourself, how can you really compare the two scenarios? They're not, yes, in terms of, yes, blowing it up and starting anew.
Players aren't similar at all.
Exactly, that falls under the same category. Donovan Mitchell is in his physical prime. He's in my opinion, he is a fantastic. He's, like I said, arguably the best shooting guard in the league. You can argue him or
we're going to talk about it. I'm going to look up what ESPN has for trades right now because I don't even know what people are talking about with this.
So go ahead. So how do you kind of compare this situation to the 2013 Celtics? You have to understand that, I mean, we saw it. that Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett in Brooklyn, when they also had Deron Williams, Joe Johnson, and Brook Lopez, they had 1 second-round appearance left in them. That was it. And they barely beat Toronto because Paul Pierce had a game or a series-winning block. Like, that was it. And they didn't really make that much noise with it. So, and again, Donovan Mitchell is a superstar who some may argue is in his prime, but some may argue he's not entering his prime, or he hasn't even entered his true prime yet. So, and that's kind of where my confusion with this lies. How do you understand? Like, how do you kind of compare the two? You really and truly can't. And why do you look at Donovan Mitchell as a man that you need to kind of unload? In my opinion, if I'm Utah, take every single asset that you got for Rudy Gobert and make sure they do not play a single game for you this year. Obviously, maybe if you want to keep a couple first-round picks, sure. But how do you not use those pieces, use those chips as a piece to get another all-star guy in? You know, in my opinion, there it is. there you go. But I think that if you were going to do that and just, keep Donovan Mitchell, I would have rather just kept on running it back with Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
To be completely honest with you.
Or pair him with another, caliber all-star at this point.
That's
with all
the
capital they got.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Again, I a long time ago, I proposed a straight-up Rudy Gobert for AD. Not straight up, but obviously there would be. And I thought that
was
would
a
be
good deal.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought it would be great where you could get Anthony Davis, who needs to start proving himself, so his trade value would be low, and then Rudy Gobert, who had a bad playoffs.
LeBron needs a big.
That's what I'm saying.
Play inside.
That's what I'm saying. And they have had success with similar guys like Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. So an amplified version of that, who knows how that would go. But in my opinion, you need to get another all-star player to team up with Donovan Mitchell. I don't think this team was in need of a complete blow-up. They were in need of retooling, and if they get rid of Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, you kind of dropped the ball, because I really don't think that this team was in desperate need of a blow-up. Nobody was saying here that Utah, was spinning their wheels or whatever. Well, they were, but what I'm saying is they weren't saying, oh, this team needs to be completely disloaded. This is, in my opinion, this is kind of similar to something that is like me when I said we should trade Jason Tatum, right? Yeah. And I was wrong for it, and here I am looking at it from a Celtics fan to a Utah's fan perspective, and now I see it. Yeah. Now I kind of see it, and I think it would be a mistake.
Sure. So let me throw, and I agree with you 100%, but we're in the reality now where teams are looking at trades for Donovan Mitchell. So at this point, if you're Utah and you are going to trade him, let's see what the best package is at this point. So from what I'm reading, the Knicks have the best deal to offer out of anyone, and it would include 4 first-round picks and something like Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, and Quentin Grimes. So that's from New York, and Donovan has links to New York. His dad grew up in Connecticut or something. I don't know.
You see, that's just so confusing because, again, we all can agree that Donovan Mitchell is miles ahead better than Rudy Gobert, and I'd argue that package is worse than the Rudy Gobert one.
Yeah.
So, Emmanuel Quickley's good. He's a good young guard who has some promise, but who were the other 2 players that you listed?
It was Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, and Obi Toppin. Which Obi Toppin's okay for a young player.
He's yet to really develop and break out.
Yeah.
Literally when that guy was drafted, his highlight film was just dunking. It wasn't him being a basketball player; it was him dunking the basketball, and his athleticism.
All right. So the other player or the other team we got in here, that's the most likely one, just because the 4 first-rounders, and we know that Danny loves those. So,
yeah.
The other one that is here is Miami, which is everyone talks about Miami when a trade goes like this. It's saying that it would have to be something like Bam Adebayo, but it would be tough because they both still have their, rookie extensions that would have to be dealt. So it could be like a sign and trade, something like that. And then Miami would have to pull something ridiculous off. Would have to go into 2026, 2027.
For first rounders?
They would have to dig really deep into their bag to get something like that. It would have to be something with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero as well. Miami would have to give up a lot, and honestly, I don't think it makes them better to do that. But that is the price to get Donovan
Especially
Mitchell.
If you're also giving up Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
It would be tough.
The thing is,
they would have to go and get Thomas Bryant off the free agency market or something.
Bryant signed with LA.
Oh,
Lakers.
He did?
Yeah,
okay.
Bryant signed with the Lakers. So that's what I'm saying. In my opinion, there it is again. See, now but anyways, so if you take for that New York Knicks deal that you said, if the Utah Jazz were to take that trade or some resemblance or similarities to it, you're getting, again, I'll repeat, the same amount of first-round picks that you got for Rudy Gobert, and then the players that you got along with it are worse.
Yeah.
How are you happy with that if you're Utah? Wouldn't you much rather, again, disload the package that you got for Rudy Gobert and maybe include some other people and just get another all-star? Get a Brandon Ingram to go with D. Mitch.
Sure.
I love Brandon Ingram. Who else can you think of? I got
a couple of interesting ones. So
all right.
The first two, you can argue those are in the realm of possibility, right? Especially the New York one, that's a very real possibility. Miami, okay, it could happen, but would it really? Who knows? This is when it starts to get a little,
Interesting?
Or
ridiculous?
Ridiculous.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So the Brooklyn Nets, I'm not kidding, this is a real trade that people are throwing out there, is that they flip something along the lines of Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, a couple of other players. They get back a ton of picks and draft capital, and then they send what they got in exchange for Donovan Mitchell, and they bring Donovan Mitchell to Brooklyn.
Yeah, no.
It's just not. So that one's very out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's a no for me, dog. I mean,
just to, indulge in the fever dream, what would a team of Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant look like? And would that be enough for them to stay? Even though I've had enough talking about Kevin Durant on this show, but really quick, that trio is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, but so isn't them with James Harden, and they didn't win. So
True.
no.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
So, I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say about Donovan Mitchell again.
Me too.
So, it kind of put my...
The Raptors are in here, too. That's not going to happen.
Oh, yes. Go to Toronto, please.
Well, no, because they would have to give up Scotty Barnes.
Oh, no, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nope, don't do it. Okay.
It would have to be a whole lot.
Yep, so kind of to put a bow tie around this whole thing.
The Knicks would be my prediction. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we'll see. It kind of put a bow tie around the whole thing. In my opinion, you just have to make sure that you get somebody who's better than Rudy Gobert, and whether it be a 1, a 3, a 4, or a 5, whatever position they play, I think you need to use the assets that you got from Gobert and include others to get an all-star caliber player in, because you really dropped the ball and you just drafted Donovan Mitchell for nothing, in my opinion, if you do that, because Donovan Mitchell, I mean, name me some people who really want to play in Utah.
It's true.
Like you have a guy.
He liked playing there. He liked playing with. He didn't like playing with Rudy Gobert. That was, we knew that.
Yeah.
But he liked playing for Quinn Snyder. No, he's not the coach there anymore, right? He was fired.
They hired the Celtics head coach. Or Celtics, was it Will Myers or whatever?
Yes.
Is his name Will Myers?
It was something like that.
Will something.
Yeah,
Will.
And it's not me.
Yeah, Will Nicholson. I mean, that'd be such an honor.
I know, right? Well, what an upgrade from coaching rec basketball to.
I mean, obviously Utah saw enough.
they saw
they're
like the third seed in rec, drafted his own team, put him there.
Speaking of seeing what they needed to see, see, this is I'm gonna try to remain pretty calm because we're in such a beautiful venue here, and I don't want Heather and Yvonne to see me getting Yvonne. I'm sorry, to see me get all angry on this podcast.
I edit it
and destroy.
I'm the one who edits it
and destroy such a beautiful high quality T-shirt, a beautiful high quality jersey, and a misspelled jersey. A beautiful misspelled typo jersey in the studio. But if you haven't heard already, this is something that I said we're talking about because I'm angry about it. Paolo Banchero, the number 1 overall pick in the past draft, has been sit down by the Orlando Magic, not because of injury, not because of load management, because they feel as though they've seen what they needed to see out of a rookie who only played a handful of games in Summer League.
Played 3, something like that.
Yeah, not even. So you could probably count the amount of games he played, I believe 3 or 4, on one hand with fingers in some despair. So it makes me angry to my core that the Orlando Magic, this isn't a Apollo thing, this is an Orlando Magic thing that makes me just, again, grinds my gears. Will, I want to hear what you have to say about this because then I'll say what I have to say. But, Will, what do you think?
Gino, you're not going to like it. And shocker, me and Gino don't agree. I agree with the Orlando Magic here. In the sense of, look, I wasn't very high on Paolo Banchero when I first saw him get drafted by the Magic, first overall. I was like, this seems too safe of a pick for the Orlando Magic. What are they doing? You could have gotten guys like Jabari Smith. You could have gotten like Chet Holmgren, who was my, prediction for first overall. And I was like, he's a safe pick. Oh, he's from Duke. He's got a good frame. Whatever. It felt like very much of a Cam Reddish pick to me. That's who he reminded me of. And I wasn't in on it.
Shocker out of Duke.
Sure. And I didn't see. Then I saw him play in summer league, and I was like, oh, I get it. Defensively, he looks like he's going to be really good. He has the tools. He had a lot of very big, important blocks in those summer league games, and he was just the best player on the floor every single time. From the games the really big games he had, he scored efficiently a 17. He had a 17 point per game, not point per game, just point game. Sorry, scoring performance, and then he had a 23-point game, and he had the game-winning assist. Kid looks good. Kid looks really, really good. And if I'm the Orlando Magic, seen enough. Don't get hurt playing Summer League. He's going to start for the team. He's going to play. At this point, it's why would you play him anymore? You know what you have. The Summer League was for him to get reps. Oh, he can play at the NBA level. He's the best player with all these G League guys. Yeah. Later.
Well, want to know who else had a good Summer League?
Who?
Anthony Bennett.
Sure. Okay.
Anthony Bennett had a really good Summer League when he was in his rookie year.
Sure, but this is different.
How?
All right, Banchero has a very, very good frame, right? He's got a frame. He looks athletic. He's gonna, what he's going to be now in the NBA. I do.
So 3 games we know already.
I think I got a pretty good idea.
3 games.
Okay, listen. You know what he's going. You don't necessarily know what he's going to be. Sorry, you know what he's going to be like. You have a 6'6" forward, very athletic, plays great defense, has a smooth jump shot.
What happens when he goes up against Giannis?
Yeah, but he's a 3.
Yeah, no. Well, he is a 3, but Giannis can guard 1 through 5.
Sure. Well, yeah, no one can guard Giannis, obviously. But
no. I'm saying what happens when Paolo has the ball and Giannis is across. So I'm Paolo and you're Giannis.
Okay.
What's Paolo gonna do? Is he gonna do what he's doing against these summer league guys?
Maybe. Who knows? You know what his game looks like. That's the thing. No rookie is ever gonna be prepared to play like in the NBA immediately. It's not gonna happen. But at this point, why risk him getting hurt? He's gonna have a chance to win Rookie of the Year. He finished up college. He went through all this stuff in the draft. He's played in summer league. I mean, let the kid rest at this point.
Rest.
Yeah.
He hasn't even played 5 games.
Sure, but you gotta remember he's gone through like the draft combine. A lot of stuff has happened, right? It's been a lot of work.
Poor him.
I know. Conti, look, I know, and I understand this is something that rubs Conti the wrong way. I get it. But if you're the Magic, why would you risk him getting hurt at this point? You know he's going to start for you. You know he's going to have a shot at Rookie of the Year.
Because nobody is above. No, and again, it's a Magic.
I agree with you.
This isn't Apollo. Again, let me clarify. This is not Apollo thing.
I know.
Because
he's going to be really. Can we admit he's going to win Rookie of the Year?
No.
I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
I can't admit that.
Okay.
He hasn't played a single game in the NBA.
Sure, but if you were to pick someone for Rookie of the Year, would you pick Paolo?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. To me, it's a toss-up between...
This guy's still way too high on Jabari Smith. And that's what it is.
To me, it's between him, Jabari, Benedict Mathurin, and Jaden Ivey.
Okay, those are respectable names.
Yeah, those are the 4 that I kind of just to give a broad, beginning.
But that's the top 4. Oh, wait, no, you don't have Chet in there, huh?
I don't.
All right.
But anyways, because, maybe he should learn to eat a steak once in a while.
Leave the boy alone.
Huh? Yeah, keyword boy. He ain't a man.
Okay.
Anyways, so... Again, and I'll say this for a 3rd time, this isn't the Apollo thing. He's doing what the team is instructing him to do. But if you're the Orlando Magic, you're telling me that you have seen 3 games, or 3 or 4 games, whatever it may be, less than, what percentage of that? 82 divided by 3 or 4, whatever it may be. You have seen less games than fingers on a hand of this player, and you are, just because he does well against a lower level of competition, guys who are more than likely going to be in the G League for their entire career.
Not necessarily. A lot of people make the roster from summer league.
So with the exception of some second-year players.
Matt McClung should make a team, by the way.
Maybe, yeah. So you're going to face no more than G Leaguers, like high-level G Leaguers / end-of-the-bench guys, but with the exception of second-year players and guys who got drafted in the same class as you. That's really it. You're not facing guys like Giannis. You're not facing guys like Jimmy Butler, and I'm naming guys who he's going to see 4 times a year, by the way.
Okay.
You're not facing guys like, who am I thinking of?
Central Division.
Jason Tatum.
Sure.
You're not facing Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
You're not facing all these guys. You're not going to face James Harden, who obviously isn't a good defender, but he's a superstar. Okay, you're not going to face, if Kevin Durant stays, you're not going to face Kevin Durant. You're not going to face, you're going to laugh, Julius Randle. You're not going to face DeJounte Murray. You're not going to, Trae Young, you're not going to face these guys in Summer League. These are all guys who, again, are either a little bit better than him right now or at his level right now in terms of just G Leaguers.
Look, I see where you're coming from, but why would you? What is the more summer games he plays? Is that going to prepare him for, Giannis? Is it going to prepare him for James Harden, Jason Tatum? Are those summer league games going to prepare him for that moment?
NBA experience. You get better by playing, not by sitting.
All right, listen, but the summer league is still NBA experience, right?
Yes.
They're still NBA caliber.
That's what I'm saying, because you get better.
I'm trying to make. Nothing is going to prepare him for that moment except that moment and playing, right? But why would you even risk him, playing in summer league at this point?
Because it's ridiculous. But
what part about it is ridiculous?
Because they want to evaluate other talent, dude. You can evaluate other talent by putting them on the floor, but Paolo can also play.
But Paolo's gonna make the team though.
Yes, but
so you know he's gonna start for you, and honestly, probably gonna be one of the best players on the team in his rookie year.
And I'm not arguing his talent.
Okay.
I'm not like
it's a magic thing for you.
Yeah, again, I'm not arguing his talent. Like, please don't misconstrue this as me saying I think he's terrible.
No.
Again, he's not. I said he's the most NBA ready player in the draft, and I had some high words for him when we did the mock draft. But again, this is something that I never thought that I would find myself in a situation where I'm saying let the players gain exposure and NBA exposure by playing and me getting backlash for it. Like, in my opinion, it's like, what does this league become? And what does the fans and everything become where I'm saying let the players play, and it's ridiculous for them to sit their number one overall pick.
But this is something that happens in preseason. You don't play your starting rookie quarterback. Like, Trevor Lawrence didn't play every single game in the preseason. That's all this is. It's preseason. It's preseason basketball.
It's a great preparation because you're not running a different playbook. You're not running a different playbook.
Okay, do you think he's just going to stop? Because he's playing in the games. I imagine he's still practicing, right? It's not like he's going to...
Oh, dude, of course he's still practicing.
Okay, but it's with the summer league team, so it's not like he's going to be out of shape. They're just not going to play him.
No, I'm not talking about him being out of shape. Well, again, I mean, you and I are both athletes. We've played sports. Yes, like practice is so important, and what you do in practice, you practice how you play. Like, it is tremendously vital to have practice and to always show up and do whatever you got to do, unless you're hurt or whatever. But at the same time, you also don't truly get the experience of being in the game unless you play in a game. And yes, I understand he's going to play in the regular season. I understand that more than likely he's going to be a highlight player for that team. We don't know because he hasn't played the game yet against these high-level guys, but more than likely, and I would tend to agree with you when I think that he's going to be one of the better players on the team. And him and Suggs could really be a good duo.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Will, you have to understand that the Orlando Magic are basically saying, we are a franchise who believes that we can see our rookie play 3 or 4, less than 5 games. And he plays well. Yes, he plays well. Good for him. I can name you so many players who are no longer in the league because of incompetence who had 3 good straight games.
Yeah, sure. But here's the thing. Do starters play in the summer league?
No.
Is he about to be a starter?
We'll see. More than likely, but more than likely. But
Conti, answer that question the way you know it is. Is he going to start?
More than likely. Yeah, okay. More than likely he's going to start. But it's not that simple.
No, it is though.
It's not that simple. He's a rookie.
Yeah, but starters don't play in the summer league. It's just how it is.
He's a rookie.
Okay,
rookies play in the summer league.
Sure, rookies play in the summer league, but he's going to start at this point. He's
yes,
going to start. But he's going to be their starting level 3.
Okay,
so
but
why
at the same time,
are you playing
rookies
him in the summer league?
Because you have to gain exposure to the NBA game.
But he's not going to be ready for those moments anyway.
It's disgraceful.
Okay, the 3 more summer league games that he's going to play is not going to prepare him for the NBA any more than he is now.
Yes, it will.
No, it won't.
Yes, it will.
It won't. Look, they got his feet wet, right? He's felt what the NBA is kind of like. All right, now you're gonna be.
So 3 games, he will not learn a single thing in those 3 games.
Against this, no, he
won't. So by playing an NBA games, he will not learn.
Yeah, G League games.
You're telling me it is useless and he is above playing 3 games?
I'm not saying it's useless. I'm just saying he's going to be a starter.
He won't learn and useless is the same thing.
But okay, but why would you start him? Like why if you're going to start him, why play him?
Because he's a rookie. I don't care what pick he is.
But Gino, it wasn't even close. He was the best player on the floor at all time.
I don't care.
Well, see, that's a problem.
I don't care. Play.
Okay.
Let the players play. He's not above it. I don't care what pick you are.
Sure.
Well, again, Jaylen Brown played his second year.
Sure.
And yeah, he wasn't a starter at that point, but he was still an emerging star who everyone had optimism about. Jaylen Brown still played. Jason Tatum played in Summer League.
He did, yeah.
Like
but
again.
Paolo still played in Summer League.
Huh?
He still played in the Summer League.
But you're
okay. But you have a couple of games from it, and it's like, all right, we know that he's going to be a starting NBA talent.
Yeah, and again.
So what? But what? What if he gets hurt in the Summer League?
Okay, but what if he doesn't?
Okay, you know what? Touche.
What if he doesn't?
Sure.
But again, like you can't think like that. You can't play scared. That's the thing that really ticks me off because again, like this is still a player who has had a handful. I'm sorry, not this. A handful of good NBA games. That's it. I can name you 1,000 players who did not get a contract renewal because they were bad or not good enough, I should say, to be on a current NBA roster and have then fizzled out in the league. I can name you a million guys who have had 3 good games in a row and are no longer on NBA squads.
Look, and I think I agree with you. Young players should play in the Summer League. But at this point, you've seen this guy, you've seen him play. This was just to get his feet wet. It was the same thing with Zion. It's like, okay, can he play? Yes. Check. Now go get ready for the NBA season. It's time.
Okay, but how do we know?
What do you mean? How do we watch him play?
Yes, but how?
He was so much better than everyone on the floor.
Okay, but again, you're telling me that it is useless for him to get to. So he will learn nothing if he plays more. He has reached the level. We have seen enough with this such small sample size that we already can look into the future and know that he is not going to make mistakes. He's not going to learn anything from playing any more games. And again, the reasoning was not for load management. The reasoning was to evaluate other players. Really and truly, look at the Orlando Magic roster and name me one guy.
But guys from Summer League make the roster.
They do. They absolutely do. And I take back what I said earlier.
You know Paolo's going to make the roster. You know he's going to start. Let other players get in there and get a shot to make the team.
Okay, but
because you know he's going.
So somebody here, including you, will name me one guy, really and truly, who we believe that is going to get on the edge of that bench in Orlando and truly make an impact on the team, or like I said, just become a part of that rotation, or be at the end of the bench.
I'm not the scout of the Orlando Magic.
So if nobody knows, and if the Magic don't know,
that doesn't mean no one's going to make the roster, because there are people who are looking at these guys every day. It's very possible that like even 2 or 3 of those guys can make the roster.
Okay, so in theory, you don't play Paolo, so somebody who sits at the very edge of the bench can get into that game.
Yes.
So you're telling me
that's what the NBA does.
So
you need roster
realistically, yes, of course, but realistically, the guy, I'd say Paolo, and then the second best player, and then the third best player. Those second and third best players are probably going to be the guys who end up on the end of the bench.
Sure.
Right? Would you say that?
Sure.
So who really and truly are you going to take off that bench who you haven't already seen? Because you've already seen the guys that you're supposedly going to be taking off. Who is it that really and truly you believe is going to make that impact where you can evaluate them? Paolo is not above evaluation. Sure. He has had 3 games where he's been evaluated, and yes, he's been good. He's been very good. I'm not going to take it away from him, and I'm not going to say he's bad. He really and truly could be a great player in this league. I'm not saying he can't, but you're telling me that we have evaluated him enough to the point where we believe we do not need to see anything more, and he is above playing these next few games. He's not, Will.
Okay, but just because you can say, all right, one of these guys, maybe they're not going to make the team. I mean, this is the NBA. You get the best players in the world, no matter what, to make your team. You know Paolo can play. You've seen it. Whether or not he's going to get better for playing the Summer League, sure. Would he get a little bit better? Fine. I don't think it's, that much of a margin where it would prepare him for the regular season. But at this point, okay, you wet, the feet a little bit. You dip the toes in. Paolo can play basketball. Good to know, right? But at this point now, you have other players who, like they said, they're not doing it because of load management injury. It's to evaluate more talent on the roster. So, Paolo taken over the games. He's scored 20 points in, a couple of them. He's played very, very well. He's been the number 1 scorer, I think, in every single game he's played in. So at this point, you want to evaluate other talent for the roster, whether or not that helps the team win a championship or not. That's the way the NBA works. You get the best players in the world on the roster. So at this point, yes, if you want to evaluate more talent because you know that Paolo is going to start for you, and you want to fill out the rest of your bench with quality players, that's the way to do it through the summer league. I mean, we can talk about how unrealistic is it for someone to be in this, a G leaguer in the summer league and go make it. You got Chris Middleton. As funny as it is, Alex Caruso. I mean, he was a G League summer league guy, and he made the roster.
I'm not arguing that, but again, but the thing is, under Paolo, those second and third and maybe fourth best players are all going to be guys that round out the end of the bench.
Yeah,
like these aren't going to be your guys who, in my opinion, will make some really true, and at day one at least, a rotational impact. Besides Paolo, of course. So
they still need jobs, though. You know what I mean?
I understand, but they're gonna be in the G League.
Yeah, but so who contract and an NBA contract is so different.
It is, of course. Yeah. But who is it that you're trying to evaluate that doesn't play, that will who will jump up the ranks immediately on that G League team, that will be evaluated and be brought up to that level of the second and third guy who's going to round out that bench? Because if they were at that level already, then they'd be the second and third best player, and they would be already in that starting rotation. Am I right?
Well, sure, but I think if you're the Magic, you just want to evaluate more options that you have on the summer league, because you could be in between a guy and go, oh, we've seen good things here. We've seen things. Say it's another 3, and you're between. Okay, do we get a guard or do we want to put another 3 on the roster? And the 3 has only played bench minutes because Paolo's been playing, and then that's okay. We've seen good stuff here, good stuff that Paolo's now out. He's the starter, and now you have more of a clear picture of, okay, who's going to make the roster. Is going to make a day one impact? No, but I think that's more important than playing Paolo in the summer league, because he's probably going to play like 70 games of the regular season.
Yeah, and I really don't care. That's the thing. I don't care. Like, he's played less than a handful of games. I'm starting to repeat myself.
Yeah.
But again, it's
a classic Conti and Nick.
Yeah.
We're not going to agree.
So it's a classic thing where I prefer the preferable thing where men used to be men and actually play when they're contractually obligated to. And Will's like, 3 games, that's enough. He's going to be great.
Yeah, you don't want him to get hurt.
You shouldn't think like that.
Okay, but it's a reality.
Of course, that's a reality that people get hurt. But again, you have to make sure you have.
You can say, all right,
players.
men be men, and go play in these pointless summer league games.
They're not pointless.
They are pointless.
They're not pointless.
They are.
They're
to
not
Paolo,
pointless.
They're pointless.
They're not pointless.
He's going
Nobody
to start
is above.
like 70 games in the
that's
NBA.
what makes me angry.
What?
They're not pointless.
Paolo, yes,
no games are pointless. If you brought LeBron James down there, yes, it's pointless. Paolo Banchero is a man who has not stepped on the floor in a regular season NBA game.
He can play in those games.
I don't care.
But you should.
Sorry.
Sorry, Conti and Nich shirt.
I don't care. The
Conti and Nich shirt's like, stop fighting.
To me, play every single game that you can. And not to mention, does this not throw him off his rhythm a little bit?
I mean, no, because he's still playing. He's still practicing. He's still shooting around.
Okay, but in game experience.
Well, in that case, everyone should play in the summer league.
So Aaron Nesmith is still practicing with the Celtics, so he should just be able to come off the bench and be the sharpshooter he was labeled to be.
He should get traded. That's what he should be.
Yep. See, he's deflecting and changing the subject. That's all right.
He should be traded. No, but in that case, let everyone. Steph Curry should playing in the summer league then. Fresh NBA experience. Stay light on your feet.
Okay, but we know what Steph Curry can do.
Okay, but we know that Paolu's going to start in 70 games in the NBA.
He very well may be.
So why are we playing him in more summer league games than we have to?
Because he's not above it.
Okay,
he's not above
it. But he's going to get 70 games of NBA experience. That's more than any of these G League guys are going to get.
It doesn't matter, dude. It's you're still running the team playbook. You're still getting chemistry with some guys who may eventually
practicing with them for sure.
Okay, but you have to play to get better. You get better by playing. You get better by playing.
And practicing, too.
Yes, and practicing, but...
and he's going to get better by playing.
Everybody will tell you.
70 NBA games.
Yes, and it's true, but everybody will tell you the most important experience is the game experience, because then that really and truly prepares you. You're not going up against Giannis every game. You're not going up against Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum. You're not going up against these guys in practice. You're going up against them in games. Yeah. And you're not doing it in the G League, obviously, but still, you need game experience. You need game experience.
Sure.
Sure. I don't care if Paolo ends up being the greatest player of all time. I don't care. Play the leagues. Play the games.
Okay.
Play the games.
Paolo,
It's inexcusable.
get ready for the NBA season, kid.
See, I'm the parent that's trying to prepare you for the world. He's the parent that's trying to hide you from it.
No, don't put that on me.
So
Get ready.
anyways,
I'm not saying don't get ready. Get ready for the NBA season. You're gonna start 70 games.
we're not
We
gonna
have the
agree
NFL.
we're not gonna agree on this, but
No,
we
we
do
won't.
have
This
the
is one of
NFL
the
to go to.
classics where like it happens, and like realistically, it's not that big news. But me and Conti will just we're like, no, like you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, just like
It's
Jordan Love's
classic.
2020 preseason.
listen. Just don't even get me started on Jordan Love. All right, we haven't seen it in the studio yet. We're gonna see because he's gonna play in the NFL preseason. We'll get to that anyway. We have
And
the
he
NFL
played
to
well in the
talk about.
preseason.
He will not.
No, I said he did play well in last preseason.
No, he didn't.
You and I had
No, he didn't.
You and I had a discussion about it. There were 2 throws that were his fault, and he threw, I think, 19 passes in that game. There were 2 throws
How
that
did he
were
do
his fault.
when he started an NFL game this year? How was he?
He kept it close against one of the best teams in the league
Okay.
for 3.5
Conti,
quarters. He
We have,
kept it close.
we have some second and third year players to talk about.
I told you, I gave him a D+. I told you that. I gave him a D+ for the game.
And you said he played good.
I never said that.
Okay.
I said he kept it close.
The team kept it close.
Okay, but he is manning the ship on offense.
Oh my god! All right, we have some second and third year players to talk about, and God
That was
forbid,
probably like a 25-minute debate.
God
Who cares?
forbid you say Jordan Love is one of the second and third year players that is going to break out.
I'm not gonna.
Then I'll lose it.
Because Aaron Rodgers had a 5-year deal. So anyway.
True.
So I put this post out on Instagram a couple days ago, about a week ago, I should say, and we actually got a good turnout with our answers. We had a variety of different people. Some said the same people.
We still have those up actually.
Not up on the post, but go on our story things. The questions.
yeah.
It should have the
They're there.
picture highlighted by Bill Belichick on our Instagram.
Okay, yep.
And just keep on going. So the question I asked was, what second and third year NFL players do we believe will have breakout seasons and really will surprise some people that either have made a little bit of a name for themselves and haven't taken that next step yet, or
Got
either
a bunch of responses to this.
that's what I'm saying. Or people who, we haven't really heard of that much yet and will kind of come out of nowhere. So before you and I give our spiels, let's hear some of the people's responses.
Yeah, so we'll go through the responses real quick. One that, I kind of liked was AJ Terrell. It's not a bad one.
Well, he was one of the best corners in the league
Yeah.
last year.
One
in
that
my
I
opinion, he
disagree
has
with-
breaking out.
One thing I disagree with is Drew Lock. I don't think he's taken a step, but
Didn't Ethan Lippin say that?
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. Yeah. Nope. Sorry, buddy.
I think someone else said it too. Which why? But
They're just being trolls.
yeah, exactly. One that I really, really like is Jerry Jeudy. I feel like he has possibly a top 10 receiver in the league here.
I've been very high
crazy.
on Jerry Jeudy ever since he came out.
I like that one. J.K. Dobbins, yes, I think he should have a bounce back here.
From injury too.
Yes, oh yeah. Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar, I really like too. That's going to be a good one where I feel like he has to take that step now. He's going to have more of a role in that Patriots defense. CeeDee Lamb should have, again, he should be one of the guy who he should, be in the conversation for a top 10 wide receiver.
We'll see.
Yeah, James Robinson, another good one.
Yes.
DeAndre Swift, yes.
Yep.
Someone said Tom Brady, but another one I
agree.
agree. Another one I really like is Jalen Phillips. I feel like he has to have a good year.
Yep. He had a really good rookie year too.
Yeah.
He was pretty good his rookie year, and I think that he can only get better.
Elijah Moore, great one.
Yep.
Kyle Pitts, another really, really good one.
We kind of already know Kyle Pitts though.
Sure, but like, he needs to show that, oh yeah, I was the highest drafted tight end ever. Show that. It's time. Barmore is another good one.
I love that one.
To be
it's my favorite response.
There's two that I see here that were actually two of mine, so I'm not. I'll just say them actually. So one player I just kind of transitioned that I think is really going to break out this year is I think Mac. And look, this is me
Mac
trying
Jones?
to be me trying to be as unbiased as possible. I mean, he had a good rookie season. He didn't win Offensive Rookie of the Year, right?
Jamar.
It was Jamar. Okay, it was close for a minute. It was. People were talking about it. Mac. I mean,
Rashawn Slater should have won it. I'm serious. No, I'm serious.
All right.
Rashawn Slater should have won it.
Anyway, we
Or
got,
Creed Humphrey too.
Humphrey.
The center for the
Yeah,
Chiefs.
that's not a bad one.
He should have won it.
It's not a bad one. You could probably put
He was
Penei
great.
Sewell in that one too. He had a great rookie
Well,
year.
Creed Humphrey was graded the #1 center in all football last year.
Yeah,
So as a rookie.
that's true.
So
But Jamar Chase had the best rookie receiving yard ever and had his team to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, guess what?
Stuff.
He wouldn't be catching balls if the offensive line didn't hold up for him. So and it didn't. So,
yeah, I was like, they didn't.
yeah, but anyways.
No, so Mac looks. I mean, he's like the post said. He's looking like fit. He is looking super lean. He's looking athletic.
No more dad bod with the cigar.
No more dad bod with a cigar. Mac is looking really, really good. And, I mean, with the way that he works, I mean, I feel like he has a very, very good year. I still don't think the Patriots are going to be very good this year. I have, unfortunately, I would love for them to prove me wrong. But from what it looks like right now, I think we'll be a decent team with a good quarterback. I feel like we're going to look a lot like the Deshaun Watson in, 2019, was it? When he was still playing, where he led the league in passing yards.
Maybe.
It could be. I feel like it could be something like that, where
we'll
the talent
see.
isn't really there. The team isn't that good.
I mean, we did get Devontae Parker. And when
he's gonna be
healthy, he is good.
Yeah.
When healthy,
Not a
Devontae
second-year
Parker's
player,
really
by the
good.
way. This was another one that I agreed with a ton. It was Cam Tate, so shout out to Cam Tate. Not a second-year guy, but I think Kendrick Bourne is going to have another great season. I agree. I think he should have a very, very good year.
Yep.
And then Davis Mills, another one that I wanted to talk about. I think that Davis is going to play well. Gino's doing a little shimmy because it's not a first-round quarterback. But
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I just love Davis Mills.
I like Davis Mills, too.
And call names exposed me, too. I was trying to kind of just hide the fact that I really like him and Nico Collins. Spoiler, for fantasy, just trying to hide the fact that I liked them. That way, no one would be just that jerk who's like, I'm taking him from Gino, so we can't have him. But Colin exposed me to the world, and apparently I put one too many hints out there about him.
And I mentioned to Gino, Justin Jefferson should just break out too. But I mean,
he's a top 3 receiver.
Yeah,
so
he.
So they're
going to be in a more passing-centric offense this year, though, so he could put up some serious numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on if you think Kirk Cousins is going to perform well.
It's true. Which, flip of the coin with Kirk.
Yeah.
He either plays really well or really bad.
Yeah.
Depends.
But so let me kind of go into my notes, because I do have a couple of people written down who I really do think is going to make a huge impact. Second or third year players. Davis Mills and Nico Collins. I kind of put them together on one. Donovan Peoples-Jones. From the Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland, he's a corner, yes?
No, he's a receiver.
Yes, really?
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Newsome.
Greg Newsome.
My bad.
I don't think you liked that pick either. Oh, no, you didn't like the Eric Stokes one.
No.
And he ended up being one of the best rookie corners.
Yes.
But I digress. And I said the Packers were winners for it.
Okay.
But anyway, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he has that unique length, that size, and that speed. He has good hands, and he has the ability to be a really explosive athlete. Whether or not Deshaun plays or doesn't play, I don't know, but I don't think that will hinder Donovan Peoples-Jones' development that much, and I really do think he could have a breakout year. Chase Young.
Yeah.
Chase Young.
Good one.
Coming back from injury, I do believe that a lot of people were like, oh, he wasn't that good before. Yeah, but clearly something happened. Something happened to him where, he was hampered by injury. I don't think he was saying anything, and I think that's really what caused the disruption, and then obviously the torn ACL. So Chase Young, I think he's going to come back big time this year. Walker Little, offensive tackle out of Stanford. He was taken in the end of the second round, I believe, by the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. He's somebody who was hurt in 2019, opted out of the 2020 season because of COVID, and still got drafted in day 2. So to me, that is a lot of upside for somebody, and he's projected to be a backup in Jacksonville, but I do think he makes his way up to be a starter. Paulson Adebo, safety out, out of Tennessee, I believe, for the New Orleans Saints. I think he's a big physical thumper, and I think by being mentored by Tyrann Mathieu now that he's there, and having, I'm sorry, I forget his name. They got another good guy too. Alontae Taylor, another good safety. I think that secondary, even though they lost Marcus Williams, could be scary in New Orleans. Javon Holland, the safety out of Oregon, the second-year safety out of Oregon, I think that he had a tremendous rookie season. A lot of people have their eyes on him now and have some expectations, but I don't think he's going to crack under the pressure. I think he's going to be really good. Anthony Schwartz, another second-year receiver for Cleveland, and I think that he's a really good slot guy and can complement that offense really well when they have Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, who I really like, and then Anthony Schwartz can find his way maybe into that Hunter Renfrow role. I do think he can be really good. Mekhi Becton, the big tackle out of Louisville. He's had
New York.
In New York. He's had some injury issues, but when he's been on the field, he's been really good, and I think that this is a year he kind of puts it all together and becomes that Pro Bowl level guy.
Who was the coach where he was mic'd up? He's like, man, those sevens go on forever. They go down forever. It's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Dude.
So that's kind of the problem. He's big, so he will probably sustain a decent amount of injuries in his career.
Yeah.
But I do think this year he's going to break out big time. And then you'll like this one, Elijah Vera Tucker. I like him. So the big criticism with Elijah Vera Tucker was he really just wasn't strong enough. He was
blocker, right?
he was fundamentally sound, and he really did have his moments where he stood his ground. But he just needed to hit the weight room a little bit more. And once he does, he's golden. And I think he'll be a really good foundational piece to this team. And
there was an analysis piece on Elijah Vera Tucker where he was like one of the best run blockers in the league because he's a fast kid. He can get out and he's strong, but it's hard for him to hold his own against like the 350-pound D tackles. But when he gets out to the second level and takes on a linebacker, he was phenomenal. The one part where he got exposed was pass blocking. He got beat a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I
mean, that's those are rookie problems.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Like those are things that happen to a rookie.
I love that pick though. That is a great pick because if he becomes a good run or a good pass blocker, Conti doing the smile. If he becomes a good pass blocker, I mean, he could be like a Pro Bowl type dude. I mean,
I think he will be.
I
think he will be. And you know what? He's a rookie, so he's not going to be a second or third year breakout guy. But Ed Ingram, guard out at LSU, I've been telling you, I've been sending you highlight films of him. I'm like, dude, watch out for this guy. I mean, Will thinks the Vikings lost the draft, but I don't understand how when you got guys like Asamoah, when you get guys like Ed Ingram and guys like Louis Cine,
they just kept trading back, man.
Who cares?
All right.
When you get a guy like
I'll be wrong. I mean, if Ed Reed somehow just becomes amazing, sure.
He channels his inner Ed Reed.
Yeah.
Nah, but I mean, who cares? You draft him, but think of all the compensation that you get for going back. Think of all the compensation and think of all the guys that you get, and you still get a player that you want.
He needs to become Ed Reed.
He does not need to become Ed Reed. He was a number 32 pick.
Nope. If he's not Ed Reed, unsuccessful career. What's his name? Ed Ingram?
Ed Ingram.
The only thing I heard was Ed Reed.
Ed Ingram. You need to keep an eye on Ed Ingram. Right. He's going to be a Pro Bowler in his rookie year in the NFL.
That's true.
That's true? You agree with me?
Sure.
You don't agree with me.
No.
You're just saying it. Do not fib. Do not fib with me, Nicholson.
On Conti and Nick. Well, before we kind of wrap it up, if you want to participate in any of these polls that we pull up on the show, make sure to follow us again on Instagram at Conti and Nick. Gino posts polls there all the time. We also post updates on when the episodes come out. And overall, you should just go follow there. It's where we, post a lot of our stuff. And, Gino, if there's one guy who is going to break out no matter what, I mean, I think we can all agree that it is our good friend, Jumbo. Thank you, everyone. Peace.